welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are again. I am very, very lucky and honored to have a special guest to do part of my interview series with other content creators and YouTubers and friends. And tonight, I have someone very, very special that I'm so excited to talk to and find out some the inner workings behind her story. I have rainbowFRIGHT with me. How's it going tonight?
Hello, hello. It's going really well. Thank you so much for having me on your channel.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's been a while since, we got a chance to kind of, get together and do some stuff. And
Yes.
I know your schedule is super busy. Mine is pretty crazy, but I'm really excited to be able to hang out and talk and kind of find out what makes you tick as well as your channel. So, yes. All right.
Yes, I've definitely been looking forward to talking to you again for quite some time. So, super excited for today.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so let's start this off. And for you guys that are watching, first of all, let me just say if you are not subscribed to rainbowFRIGHT, you have to do it. I've got the link in the description of this video. And so you need to go there, subscribe. You will not be disappointed. For me to start this off, I've been a fan of yours from the get go. And I think what makes you special as a content creator is that you have a certain charisma, and you get your point across very easily. At least it seems to me. Now, this is why interviews are really cool because you could find out some
Yes.
of the behind the scenes. But
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I first started watching you on your channel, and I was just like, wow, this lady, she's got it. She's just got it. So, I also find these
That's so
interviews to be a
kind.
way. Well, no, I mean it. I definitely mean it. And, I think for these interviews, it's a way for me also to get to know people a little bit more, so I'm a little selfish in that sense. But to start this off, would you be able to tell us where did your horror journey begin as a fan or movie fan, however you want to word it? But how did it start and what were the circumstances?
Sure. So I feel like I've always loved movies. I basically was raised by TV. If I wasn't outside running around, climbing trees, or doing whatever, I was glued in front of the television watching Nickelodeon movies, horror movies, whatever.
Mm,
I can't remember specifically the first time I watched a horror because, my dad and other adults around me just watched it and I watched along, right along with them.
right.
So but I definitely found a deeper appreciation for films and movie making when I was about 16 when I switched my art school major from orchestra to cinema. And I
Mm,
only did that because I wanted to keep my GPA higher and I didn't want to play the trumpet anymore. But I was like, well, what other major can I do? I can't
mhm,
paint, I don't sing and dance and all that. But cinema was, a major where it was okay to kind of go in there without any knowledge.
mhm.
But when I, started taking classes, I just fell in love with it and decided that that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life was make movies, which I did not think that up until that point and haven't really wavered since then. I've done other things, obviously, but film and being creative has always just been in the background of my life. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's cool. I see, I didn't know that. That's very, very cool. Having it begin like that. That's one of the more unique origin stories that I've heard. That's really, really cool. Awesome. Awesome. Um, now, now you mentioned that, you might have family watching movies or what have you, and you kind of just popped on in there and just kind of was along for the ride. I know for me, that was definitely a little bit similar because my mother is a huge, well, my father too, huge movie fans. So me and my bro, we always found ourselves trying to sneak into the living room and watch whatever they were watching. And it's pretty interesting when you have family that helps you on this journey. But do you recall maybe the first movie, whether it's any genre, but first movie that really like grabbed your attention or that you just had a really high level of love for?
Yes, that would definitely be Poltergeist, which I
Oh.
actually just spoke about with Sledgehammer Horror on my first horror movie. Because while I can't pinpoint my first horror movie, that is definitely the one where, just like you said, it had an effect on me. And she and I, Caroline and I, were about the same age, and
Hmm.
it was definitely an impactful movie that I just
Wow.
kept watching over and over again.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's a great movie. I remember the first time I saw it, it definitely affected me, and we watched it as a family, so there was kind of that parallel going on, and it's a great
Yes,
movie. Still to this day, I love it. It's
yes.
fantastic.
Mhm.
Did you ever see the remake to it?
Yes, and no.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, man. I was like, I
I
love
mean,
that.
it had some really good moments, but it just
Yeah.
didn't jive with me. It
Mhm.
maybe if it was titled something else, I don't know, but just something about the way that it looked just looked too cheesy to me, even though it checked off all the boxes of a good movie pretty much.
Yeah.
But it did things on its own that was different from the original, which is fun, but I
Mhm.
just couldn't get on board with that one.
Wow, wow. Now, it's interesting you say that because I have not seen it, because and not that I'm not open-minded to remakes, which is what I'm going to get into with you in a second, but I just never got around to it. And I just heard from just about anyone that mattered to me, it's not it's not really worth the watch because it doesn't hold a
Right.
candle to the original, which to me, that's one of the things about most remakes, not all, but there are a lot of films that just have a certain charm that you really can't recreate or touch. And I think, at least in my estimation, a movie like Poltergeist has that, because it's,
Yes.
it 1982, and the family, and you got Steven Spielberg kind of hanging in the background with Toby Hooper. Whoever really directed the most is up for,
Right, right.
questioning. But what do you think about remakes in general? And do you have any that work for you?
Yeah, at first, remakes weren't my thing. I kind of stayed away from them just because I had an uneducated bias, I guess, because I didn't see enough to find the ones that I did like. But as I got older, I started to see better ones and started to get an appreciation for them. And one
Mhm.
example of a great one would be The Hills Have Eyes. That's a great
Mm,
example of a movie that stayed true to its roots, but also did a couple of other things that just made it greater and kind of elevated it,
mm,
using that time's technology. Um, Perfect example. And then another one would be The Crazies as another good example of making it its own, but still kind of just staying true to the original film. And I don't mind it if a remake just goes completely off and does its own thing 100%. I'm
mm.
interested to see that story too.
Yeah.
Sometimes that could be better because it's not, you know, trying to mess with, the spirit of the first one. So,
Right. Right. Yeah.
yeah.
When I think of that, I think of something like the Suspiria remake, because
Oh, yes, yes.
it was so, I mean, there were some parallels, of course, but it felt, and it really went in a different type of direction, which was intriguing, but also kind of like, it's one of those movies. And actually, I've been meaning to revisit it because I haven't watched it in God knows how long. I only seen it once, but I'm such a fan of the original and such a fan of Argento in general. But the remake was intriguing because it was so different. And I know a lot of
Exactly.
people out there, they kind of have they're on both sides of the fence. Some people enjoy that aspect of it, and some people are like, nah, come on, you know. So, uh, but yeah, remakes are interesting. They really are. And I used to have, kind of like you, that same vibe of, well, don't do a remake. Why try? But there are some that are really good. Like you said, Hills Have
Yeah.
Eyes. Um, I mean, John Carpenter's The Thing is a remake, and thank goodness for that. For me, anyways, as a fan. Um, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, with all that being said, how did you get into doing YouTube? What prompted you to start a channel? Because I mean, in my estimation, and you can let me know how you feel, it's such a big thing. And even when I first started, it was a big thing, and I I realized shortly thereafter that it was even bigger than I even imagined. It's just so much going on.
Well, it all started basically with COVID. Can I say COVID on your channel? You're okay with
Hmm.
saying COVID? Okay.
Oh yeah.
It
Oh yeah.
started with it started with COVID because once it hit, I couldn't work anymore because I was working with people face to face, and I was high risk, or I am high risk, and then just started to collect unemployment. My husband too, he wasn't able to work anymore, and so
Mm,
we were just trying to figure out what to do. We couldn't renew our lease because it was just about to be up, but we didn't know what we were going to do. We didn't want to renew
mhm,
without knowing when exactly we'd go back to work. So for a few months we were trying to just figure things out, and then Brandon actually found a college, and then we went down to Harlingen, Texas for a year while he went to school. And while he was there, he found the job that he has now. But
mm,
in that time, before my unemployment ran out, I was just thinking, okay, well, what do I want to do next? And
mhm,
Brandon and I were just talking about it, and he was like, well, you've started your channel. And I started my channel because, yeah, I was just sitting there not doing anything. We weren't
yeah,
going out. We were washing our groceries every day, and movies and video games, and those things were just getting boring. And I was doing a whole lot of cooking. So I was like, okay, well, what do I want to do with my time right now? And starting the channel just made a lot of sense with my film background, and using YouTube anyway. It just seemed like the natural thing to do to fill my time, and to just,
mm,
go hard on it, and hopefully make it into something that could pay me. If not,
mm,
fine. But obviously, I'm somebody who went to film school and is doing something that's related to that, and it would be a dream to get paid, to
mhm.
do this. So that's kind of what led me to that, and I've just kind of
Wow.
stayed on this train and just kept going with it.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. I mean, I think the pandemic definitely was kind of a jumping off point for a lot of people, myself included. Very similar.
Yes.
Just you had that time, and what are you gonna do with it? And so that's cool. Now, started your channel. Were there any things that really were a big curveball to you? Because obviously, talking about movies and digging deep into horror and stuff like that, was there
Yeah.
anything that really threw you for a loop?
Um, like that, like I was surprised by in starting a channel in any way.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, when I decided that I wanted to start a channel, I basically just started doing a whole bunch of research. So I was kind of prepared for a lot. Like I was doing just a whole lot of reading and watching of
Mhm.
videos for about 3 months before I even posted my first video.
Mm.
Um, and so I don't know, I'm trying to think what threw me for a loop though. I know there had to have been something. I guess really for me, just my growth. Like I definitely expected my growth to be a lot quicker than it is.
Mhm.
But I'm steadily growing, and I feel like, I'm you know, on a good trajectory,
Mm.
but I
Mhm.
did expect, oh, I would have 1,000 in less than a year, 1,000 subs in less than a year, and 4,000 hours. That's nothing.
Mhm.
But, I'm about to creep up on year 3, and I'm not really at those numbers like I want to be. Or I passed, 1,000 subs not too long ago, but the 4,000 hour watch hours is the tougher one. But I still feel good about what I'm putting out because,
Mm.
like many people say, it's quantity, or it's quality, not quantity.
Right.
And I have subs that come back and enjoy my content. I get awesome compliments all the time. And,
Mhm.
I am enjoying what I'm doing. I'm finding new interest in doing this.
Mhm.
Like my narrations, I never expected I would be narrating horror stories and loving it, and looking into narrating books and doing voice acting and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
that's been fun to explore.
Mhm.
But yeah, just that 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 curveball, I guess, would be that my growth hasn't been as even with all the research and all these things that I did. I'm still not growing as fast as I should, but I'm just taking that with a grain of salt and enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, absolutely. It's definitely about enjoying it because it can be a grind. I mean, I've been so fortunate to befriend so many content creators over the years that I've been doing it, and so many that are, more at the beginning of their journey, and some that have been doing it for a decade or more. And
Yeah.
I think all of them have always said that they had to grind, and it is interesting because you do feel like if you're bringing something good to the table, and obviously for you, and it's very evident in your content, you put the time in, you put the research and the prep into it, and you do have that sense of, wow, well, this is gonna be great, and then the YouTube algorithm smacks you and says, wait a minute now,
10
hold
views,
on.
10 views, one thumbs up.
Yes, yes. Now let me ask you that now, because I think that's something that a lot of YouTubers don't get a chance to really um, talk about, or at least convey to the audience. Because, I'm sure that there's been times, like you said, you put a lot of time into something, and then the return isn't what you were expecting or hoping for. Has there ever been, well, first of all, just if you wanted to just give a sense of how you deal with that, and has there ever been a particular, video or project that you really were like, "What the heck? Why isn't it going the way it should be going?"
Um, I've totally, gone through that. And yeah, as an optimist, when that does happen, I'm just like, all right, well, maybe it'll get picked up in the algorithm later in a couple of months or
Mhm,
even a year. I'll just move on to the next one. The next one will be better. So I just
mhm.
always kind of just say that to myself. But one
Yeah.
video in particular, where I thought could have done a little bit better, and I guess it's because it was my first video that I put that much effort into, and I plan on
Mm,
doing more like this, is my clown video, where I did the history of clowns and why they're so creepy. That
mm,
was a really fun video to research and put together and learn about. And
mhm.
yeah, I don't think it got over 200 and something views or something like that. And I was like, at least this will be my first like 1,000 view video the day that it's uploaded, or at least the week or even the month.
Mhm.
Um, but no, it's still hanging around 200 views, but that's okay. But that just kind of, because I had so much fun doing it, then I started to like think more about doing more video essays. And in 2024, that's kind of what I want to focus more on versus movie reviews, which I'll probably still do, like
Mm.
maybe shorter videos or YouTube shorts. But I mainly want to focus on doing video essays about horror movies, 10 to
Ooh.
maybe 30-minute videos, just deep diving into it.
Nice. Now that's really cool because that was actually something that I was going to ask you. I was going to say, what if at all, if you had any plans for your channel to kind of grow into or move into, that might be a little bit of a pivot from what you're doing now. Because I think with content creators, I think it is always about, you know, doing different things or trying to explore new territory. And I'll be honest with you, that sounds like a great idea. I think, not only with the prep that you put into stuff, but your style and how you convey your thoughts. I think that's a home run, with video essays. I
Awesome.
love
Well,
video
thank
essays
you.
personally. Yeah. I re-
Yes, awesome. Yeah, and that would hopefully kind of give me more time to explore the voice acting more because doing a video a week, or if I try to do more than that, it just is very time consuming. Like you said, it's a
yeah.
grind, and
Hmm.
that's what I'm saying right now. And I know this video is gonna go up on your channel soon, but y'all don't hold me to that. But that is my plan as of now, and it has been for a while. But don't hold me to it, just in case.
Right? I know. It's all good though, man. It's all good.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about horror movies, specifically, because I'm sure a lot of people watching are obviously huge, not only movie fans, but really huge horror fans. Um, well, first question I want to ask, would you be able to list your horror Mount Rushmore as far as, character? It could be movies or it could be characters or icons, however you'd want to word it.
Well, definitely Candyman for sure. He'd go
All
on there.
right.
Uh, Freddy Krueger.
Ooh,
We'll throw Chucky up there for right now. He's cool.
ooh, Chucky. All right.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Child's Play. Very, very cool. I always like to get a sense of that from people because it's just an interesting hearing people, because a lot of times it's also about their journey, as far as movies that meant a lot to them or characters or whatever. And that's really, really cool. Now, speaking of Candyman, you gave me the perfect segue, because we had talked, a little bit as far as some favorite movies. And one of them that you mentioned was Candyman from 1992, which I absolutely adore as well.
Yes.
Um, why do you love that movie?
Well, when I first watched it, I was very young and
Mhm,
impressionable.
mhm,
And, as a young Black girl, with her white mom, um, usually in a predominantly Latino or white space, it was definitely cool seeing Tony Todd on screen, even though he was a villain, but um, he was powerful and somebody who you felt sympathy for at the same time. And it was cool
mhm,
just seeing a big Black man in an important role that was also just well done. The
mhm,
soundtrack and just the mixing, hearing his voice just moved me every time. It still moves me. I still
mhm.
get entranced when she's entranced in the garage. I just stay frozen and I'm sitting there every time. And as a
Yeah.
kid, I just felt the movie. And then, being stupid, dumb kids, at school or on playgrounds, we'd go in the bathrooms and I don't even know what the game was called, but we would play this game where we would, say Candyman
Candyman, Candyman, Candyman.
and Rosemary's name in the mirrors, go to the toilet, flush it, say we'd see the shadows, on the walls and all these things. So it was just like a game that we would always play too, Candyman or
Mhm,
Rosemary or Bloody Mary, I'm sorry. And
mhm.
yeah, so I guess that kind of had its influence on me as to why it means a lot to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can definitely dig it. And again, very similar, because seeing the character portrayed in such a powerful way, and Tony Todd, such a fantastic and charismatic actor. It was done with so much respect and care, and it's still such a powerful film to this day. Um, and it's just got so many great elements, like just from A to Z, so well done. I think it's definitely um, an iconic movie. Candyman is an icon, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad that we have him, because, like you said, when you think about Black characters, especially in horror, it's like you don't get a lot of examples, and it's a shame. And I remember watching that documentary on, was it on Netflix or Shutter? On Shutter. And Tony Todd was talking about how he was hopeful that Candyman would really kind of swing the pendulum, a lot, as far as opportunities, for other characters of color to follow. And it didn't really do what he would have wanted, um, which is
Right.
kind of shame to a shame as well. But it is what it
Yeah.
is. What are you gonna do? Um, Now, speaking of Candyman, what did you think of the new version, the new movie that had just come out a little whiles ago?
Yeah, I really, really wanted to love it. And like I said, it doesn't have to recreate the old Candyman, Actually, probably wouldn't
Right.
want to see that attempted because it would likely be messed up. There might be somebody who could do it
Mhm.
successfully. But anyway, I was excited for it to go somewhere else and be a spiritual reimagining.
Mhm.
But it just didn't work for me either. But I do like the movie itself. It was well made and all that. I actually do need to see it again. I've only seen it once in the theater. So I do need
Mhm.
to give it a second chance. I'm sure I'll enjoy it more without the expectation of what's going to be in the next scene,
Right, right.
but beautifully done. And yeah, I just need to check it out again, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm also someone that had some issue with it. I think there was a lot of missed opportunities. I also wanted to absolutely like parade this thing around and love it, to the heavens.
Yes.
And I did a lot of content following up to its release, as far as anything that we'd heard about it or news or stuff like that. And one thing that got me, and I don't know how you feel about it, but one thing that got me was I was so shocked. And for anyone that's watching this video, this is big spoilers for Candyman. So let me just say that. But I was just so shocked at the fact that Tony Todd wasn't involved in it the way that, at least for me, how I feel, the way that he should have been, or the way that he could have been. I was
Hmm.
totally shocked because to me it would have been perfect to have him, obviously he's not going to be the main star, but to have him be kind of a supporting role, at least
Yeah.
a handful of scenes maybe, as he's kind of um, showing a passing of the torch, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because we saw the other version of Candyman, and so forth and so forth. So, anyways, I thought it was a huge missed opportunity. Did you? How did you feel about it? Because obviously we saw Tony Todd for like 2 seconds at the very end. It is
So
like
yeah,
what?
like you, yes, I'm waiting for him to show up more throughout the film. We get to the end and we haven't seen him, so I'm disappointed.
Mhm.
And but then we get him those last 5 seconds. It almost pissed me off even more. It's like, don't do that.
Yes.
Don't tease me
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
Just don't even put him in there at all if that's how it's gonna be. Yeah, it just didn't make sense. And I get that Nia DaCosta was trying to do her thing and shine and all that, but they all could have
Mhm.
shined together. He needed to just be in there more, just like you said.
Yeah, yeah. I just think that it was right there on a it was just right there to be done. And
Yes.
you're right. Seeing him for the 5 seconds, it actually did irritate me a lot because I was like, well, I mean, and they could have even, and not that I would have wanted this way, but they could have even at least used some voiceovers, if nothing else. They didn't even
That
do that.
part. That part. At least bring back that haunting ass voice, because
Yes.
nothing took my breath away, and that always still does, like I said, takes my breath away, and they just didn't have any of that, in the movie
Yes.
at all.
I mean, it's, for me, his charisma, his presence, his voice, it's almost like Freddy with the glove. Freddy has to have the glove. That just
Yeah.
has to happen. If you did a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie and he doesn't have that damn glove, I'm gonna be pissed. You know what I'm saying? He's got to have the glove. And you're right. That first scene in the original, when in that parking garage, and wow, what a scene! And Virginia Madsen was great in it as well because it all kind of Helen, Helen,
Yes?
Helen. It was a what,
Mm,
dude?
yes.
This is awesome. That's my man. I mean, so yeah, man. I mean, I'm just thinking you couldn't even use some Tony Todd voiceover. I mean, like,
Come on.
yeah, and so anyways, I don't want to rant too much. I mean, hell, maybe someday if you rewatch it, maybe we can have another discussion just on that alone, because I try to, for my channel, I try not to sound like I'm bashing movies, even if it's a movie I don't like or if I have
Same.
issue with, because,
Hmm.
like you said, I do like the movie and there's good stuff in it. It's well made. I think Nia did a great
Right.
job, as far as what they decided to do. And I know I said I'm going to stop ranting about it, but hold on. But, and I had friends and people, subscribers and people that love to comment on the content that I was doing leading up to the movie, and you could just feel like it was just like a fart in church. Everybody was so dejected. Not many people, I mean, I think
Yeah.
most people thought it was an okay movie, but you could just
Right.
tell they wanted to love it, but they couldn't. And that's, I think that's the downside, legacy sequels or remakes or reboots, is that you've got a fine line, a fine tightrope that you've got to balance on, and
Yeah.
it's tough. I mean, I'm not saying I could have done better, but I just think if I had the choice, I would have had more Tony Todd.
Yeah.
So it
Already
is what it
better. Already better. Yes.
Oh
Damn it.
man.
It's
Yeah.
Candyman. Damn. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, anyways, I mean, Yaya was good in it. He was good. I like him as an actor.
Great. Yes.
Um,
He was great.
a- and it was, I think, geez, man. Anyways, I'm gonna stop. Okay.
Like you
Anyways.
said, we just needed to see that passing of the torch. I would have been fine with seeing Yaya in the next Candyman and not
Mm-hmm.
expecting Tony Todd at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we just needed to see that. And we got that with Scream, as much as you want to love or
Yeah.
hate Scream, what they're doing recently, but at least we kind of saw that transition.
Yes.
We could have gotten that with Candyman.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, and franchises that can do it with at least some success, um, I think they're better off for it, because you've got the older fans and now you've got your newer fans that can kind of, be at peace with each other, whether it's
Yes.
Jurassic World, when they kind of
Mhm.
did a passing of the baton, like you said, Scream, and there's a bunch of other examples too. But like I said, with Candyman, I was baffled. I was like, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Have there been any movies, let's say in the last couple of years, and it could be a couple, 5 or even 10 if you want, that have really, um, that you've really loved or that you highly recommend to people?
Yes. Recently, last year, Hatching came out, which is a foreign film by Anna Bergholm, a creature feature that I just absolutely love.
Mm.
So Hatching, another one would be Men. Men, I absolutely loved too. So good.
Ooh. Okay,
Did you
I'll
like that one?
well, let me just say this. First of all, Hatching, I haven't seen it yet, but I've
Oh, you're
heard
gonna
good
love it.
things. Yeah, and I've
Yes.
heard good things. Men, first of all, Men is a beautifully made movie. I mean, it's beautiful, through and through. Great acting. It got weird. It got super weird. And but I can dig weird movies, but it's a movie that I've been saying to myself, I gotta watch it again and kind of dig deeper into, and I haven't done that yet. But I
Okay.
will. But I will. But I've talked about it, and it was funny because we had a live stream, and my brother Killian and Coriander, they were both kind of like, hmm, what happened in that movie? And I was more on the side of, yeah, it was weird, but I loved it. So
Yeah.
so that's interesting. I like that as a recommendation. Very cool. Any
Mhm.
others?
Talk to Me. Talk to Me
Ooh,
was amazing. I loved that
yeah,
one.
yeah.
I'll
I
go with
really
3 for now. If I think of some more, I'll tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to Me was, um, wow, that was a good movie. It had a freshness to it. also, is familiar, but it was done in a way where it's like, wow, I'm really digging this angle that they're working off of. So yeah, I
Hell
love
yeah.
that one.
With the announcement of Talk to Me 2 or Talk to
Ye-
Me, the sequel, that's
Yeah,
pretty exciting that they did that in like a week or two after its release. So
yeah.
that's exciting. Some people would hate that because it's like, oh, it's supposed to be an art. And you can do art quickly. If
Oh
there's
yeah,
money and you got the team, you can produce art pretty quickly. So
absolutely.
I'm excited for those brothers to do a
Yeah.
sequel. Go ahead, boys. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah, man. I mean, they're very talented. I mean, they were talented even before doing this movie, so there's no reason to think that the sequel can't be very good. Now, what was your vibe on Smile, or why didn't it work for you?
So it has been a minute since I watched it because I watched it once in the theater, and I just
Hmm.
remember wanting more. It wasn't sinister enough. It didn't feel spooky enough, and that's just subjective, obviously. Again, it,
Hmm.
it checked all the boxes on the list of a great movie, even a good horror movie.
Hmm.
I just didn't feel it.
Hmm.
I Yeah, and I remember not liking the ending. The ending also kind of made me be like, okay, another one of those moments.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah,
Sometimes that happens, man. Sometimes it happens. I had we had gone to see the latest Insidious movie, The Red Door, and I'm a fan of the franchise. I think the first one is definitely um, probably my favorite. I'm a fan of James Wan and his work. Um, but this last movie, although it did check a lot of boxes, I was kind of let down by it. I was kind of like, it just didn't. I don't know. When we left the theater, I just didn't feel that oomph. I mean, and, at some point I'm
yeah,
going to rewatch it, but I guess what I'm saying is I get what you mean. Sometimes some movies they just don't light the fire underneath of you, and sometimes that can change. I've had that happen to me before, where there's a movie that I wasn't really big on, and then sometime later on I check it out and I'm like, oh, well, this was pretty good. And so that's
yeah.
that's the thing about movies. And I you know I can sometimes change on a dime. It just happens. So
Yeah, that's true. Like you can feel one way about a movie and then change your feelings about it. But sometimes when it's kind of what we're talking about and it doesn't light that fire, and that's true for the majority, I
yeah.
sometimes wonder if like maybe the script was great and
Hmm.
the costumes were great and the concept was great, but was there maybe just this weird conflict between the director and say maybe the camera person and a
Right.
producer? Is that vibe that's just clashing translating somehow to this movie? And
Hmm.
obviously sometimes the reason is because the story sucks or they picked terrible locations or they're lighting it all messed up. But
Yep.
sometimes I do wonder if every now and again it's the actual working relationship between the crew.
That's a good point too. I mean, because we've heard, a lot of stories from different projects where there's stuff going on behind the scenes. Whether it's,
Yeah.
the actors, or it could be the director and the producers, or the studios. They kind of butt in and change things, and
Yes.
it's absolutely crazy. Most famously, what always has surprised me, one of my favorite horror directors is Wes Craven, and it's amazing to me how many movies that he worked on where the studios had a lot of interference, you know?
Mm,
Um, and, he had to kind of deal with that. He had to kind of go through obstacles to get movies made, most notably, when he was working on his Scream films. The Weinsteins were always kind of, you know, don't do this, let's do that, blah 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 blah. And I mean,
yeah.
this is Wes Craven, bro. If he can't get a movie done, from A to Z the way he wants, then what hope do a lot of other directors have, especially
I
in horror,
know.
So
Yes. That's why
yeah.
independent films are a lot of times my go-to. Like I like all movies, but
Mm,
independent films just have that heart and they got that integrity, and
mm,
Hollywood films can have that too when you find the right team, but I just love me a good cheap movie that stayed true to its, heart and original story. And it's fine to change your story and all that, but what the
right.
director and writer envisions.
Hmm.
And they're always just a little bit more unique because they get to throw those little sprinklings of different things that the bigger budget films don't allow,
Right.
So,
Right,
yeah.
right. I agree. Yeah. I mean, and I think, well, like you're saying, like a movie like Talk to Me, for those guys, they were able to kind of put their vision into the movie and what they wanted onto the finished product. And, when you have that type of ability that isn't, peppered by so many other hands, or the
Mhm.
producer or whoever, I think usually it's a better product. It's at least more true to what was the intention of the creator.
Love A24. But no,
Mm,
that was just reminding me of something that I learned recently. I just watched Castle Freak for the first time. It's funny because that story is he just saw a dude who had a painting on his wall of a castle and a freak, and it was interesting to him. And uh, the guy basically was just like, "Oh, all right, well, if you want, you can have the rights basically to this picture and make a movie about it. You just have to have a castle and a freak in it." He's like,
ah,
"Okay." And the budget was basically, I think, what did he say, like $500,000, super low budget, but he was really ready and willing to do this. He was like, "It's a low budget, but I have
mhm,
complete creative freedom. So hell yeah, I want to do this."
mhm,
And it's a very unique film that I'm sad that I didn't watch before the other day. But that's just a great example of something that's unique and that lights a fire under you when you're watching it. Castle Freak
mm,
is an awesome movie. And
yeah.
I just love to see that when they just can do whatever the hell they want.
Right, right. No, you're right. It is a good one. And Stuart Gordon, and definitely, he was so creative. Rest in peace to him, because I loved his movies and his creativity, and everyone that had worked with him kind of echoes that type of thing, where they just loved him as a person, and he was just such a
Yeah.
talented um, director. So yeah, Castle Freak is definitely a good one. And isn't it so cool that even today we can go back to these movies, whether it's in the 80s or the 90s or whatever, and discover them, and it's like, wow, this is really good stuff. Like I still
Yeah.
marvel at that. It's so cool to know that there's still movies to discover. It's so cool.
Because of course there's plenty of 70s and 80s movies where I'll watch it for the first time and I'm like, well, that didn't hold up and probably not going to visit that again. But it's extra cool to see the older movies still captivate me and want to come back again and again. I love
Right,
that.
right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's quite a few of them out there. And part of it too, I was just I was doing a watch party with my buddy Steven last night. We were watching The Hills Have Eyes,
Yes.
Wes Craven, and I hadn't seen that in God knows how long, um, and I was just marveling at just the location and just the simple things that he was doing with the camera. It's not an expensive movie, and it's very simple, and but the blood, sweat, and tears that they put into filming, especially back then, practical effects and
Hmm.
all that type of stuff. I dig it. I love it, and it's as time goes on, I appreciate those things more and more. It seems like being a content creator, have you come across things that you would say is like, well, there's always ups and downs, but any type of negative things in your space? Because I know there's been a lot of great things.
I've actually been pretty lucky so far with YouTube. I haven't really had any negative interactions with people. I've had like some weird things happen where, I might lose connection with somebody because they didn't like somebody that I maybe was talking to or something like that, but
Mm,
nothing where I was involved in a situation or I, haven't gotten necessarily a bad comment. I've gotten some weird comments that I might have deleted, but nothing that
mm,
was in the troll territory, or that made me feel a certain way. I guess
Good.
I'm not really rubbing any feathers the wrong way. Maybe I need to start getting a little bit more I don't know what the word is, but I'm not upsetting anyone so far, I guess. I mean, I had some people be like, "Oh, Tusk, what the hell is Tusk? Tusk is some BS," but they didn't like go back and forth with me. I didn't reply to that,
Hmm.
So I've been really fortunate in that way. But I know once I grow, I'm sure that's gonna come, with all of that. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else. Like in particular, but yeah, just not getting on that algorithm. That's been the most negative part about YouTube, and the most mean thing, freaking YouTube being a big old bully over here. But
Right.
yeah, that's about it.
Well, no, that's good though. I mean, because I think that the more that people can stay away from dealing with dumb stuff like that, the better. The better for their own mental health. I know for me, I've known some folks that have gone through a lot of you know uh, it's just too bad, frustrating situations and stuff, and I hate to see it.
Yeah.
But it's life, and YouTube is also social media, so there's always those opportunities. But I'm glad to hear that that you haven't had to really deal with any of that. And by the way, I thought Tusk was definitely that was a movie, man.
Yes, it was. One
Oh
of my
my
absolute
god.
favorites. Go ahead and throw him on the freaking Mount Rushmore mountain. I'd love to see me a little Tusk just flapping up there.
Uh,
Oh,
I'm
I
I'm
love it.
really I'm really curious to see, because Kevin Smith wants to do a sequel, and that's, at least
He
that's
does,
the
yes.
plan. I'm
Hmm.
just really curious to see what they would do with a sequel. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, because they're not going to bring back Wallace, the
yeah,
Walrus, probably, and Homeboy has passed away.
yeah,
So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. It all started off as a joke. Some
hmm,
freaking fake ad somewhere in the UK, and now
yeah.
we're talking about a part two. So I'm curious to see where he goes with it.
I know. It's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy. Um, okay, well, as we get ready to wind down here, um, are there any things? I know you talked about where you want to go with your channel as far as the type of content, but in the meantime, are there any particular um, things coming up as far as specific content, or things that you think that you're going to be into in the next, whether it's days or weeks?
Sure, yeah. I've got a movie review coming out, The Devil's Candy. Mr. Dan
Ooh.
requested that. Yeah.
Mm.
And then I've also got a reaction video for my first time watch of The Love Witch, which was fun.
Ooh,
The Love Witch,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
And
one.
then yeah, I am planning my October right now. I'm working on my schedule. But I do plan on putting out a narration, a true crime video, hopefully a whole bunch of different videos, and probably some like videos on Saw, and maybe a live chat or two on Saw. It sucks because Saw is scheduled to come out at the end of October,
Yep.
and I had my whole October planned perfectly for that and all this stuff
Mhm.
going on, and then they bumped it up to September.
So you're a big fan of the franchise?
Yes, love it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
nice. I am too. Well, we're gonna get ready to head on out here. Again, for you guys watching, definitely make sure that you guys go and subscribe to Rainbow Fright. I have the link in the description, and you will not be sorry. Wide variety of tastes in film. I think that's really, really good for your content. It really makes it interesting, and it just you never know what to expect. And I like that.
Yeah.
I really, really dig it. So,
Awesome. Yeah, I
so
wonder about that. So I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
absolutely, absolutely. So you guys definitely subscribe. Make sure you do it ASAP. And we will talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this interview. I really appreciate it. I know you took the time to do it. Much love and respect for sure. And yeah, so we will catch you guys next time. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.
Peace.